Welcome to Take It from the Ironwoman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Ironwoman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Ironwoman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. This podcast is being sponsored by Get Loopy. On episode 41, you can hear the story of Isabel, the co-founder and CEO. Get Loopy, get a 20% discount off your first order. GetLoopy.com. Take it from the Ironwoman. Again, we have only special guests here. Here we have Bob Buckley from the UK. We both have a podcast, so we met on the podcast fellowship Saturday call, and certainly exciting to meet other people who are doing Ironman, and he has many other accomplishments. So let's hear from Bob. Who is Bob who's going to join us here?
Hey, thanks very much, Suzanne. So I'm Bob Buckley, and my home is the centre of the UK Ironman. So for 10 years, the UK Ironman has been held in Bolton. And if you can imagine the bicycle circuit being a loop or two loops or three laps, I live right in the centre of the UK Ironman bike route. So all those fabulous lanes with the countryside there, that's what I have my doorstep on the edge of the West Pennine Moors.
It's amazing. So you basically do Ironman every single day.
Well, you could say that. I do. If you look at Strava, I think I do a segment of the UK Ironman route every day. Yes.
Every day. And from his biography on LinkedIn, we can read Bob leads a small team of slightly obsessed learning professionals determined to inspire others to pursue excellence. I certainly like slightly obsessed. So maybe tell us a little bit about that. Where does that come from?
Yeah, I would say my father. He's an absolute perfectionist, and I think I've just got that from my father. Why settle for something when you can achieve more, and you get what you're prepared to accept? It's that slightly obsessive nature, that constantly wanting to improve. And it's not just marginal gains, but sometimes you have to rethink and look at how can you gain step changes. Just constantly trying to evolve and make those, pursue excellence.
And I have to say, that's what I see. I mean, my topic in business is also Take It from the Ironwoman, global business coaching with sports parallels. So I always say people who are determined in sports are equally determined in business. So it's just amazing what we can see. And it's obviously about excellence. When we look at the people who are in the Olympics, it's about precision, it's about excellence, it's about perfectionists. So
yeah, and I think if you're in triathlon, whether it's a swim, bike or run, for me, I'm a cyclist. I think it's all about the bike. Right. And I think that's where you can perhaps learn most and where you can gain most. I've learned most from the bicycle in the good times and also those dark times. 10 years ago was my first epic failure on a bicycle. We're all familiar with the Tour de France. Yeah. There's also another event called the Étape du Tour, which happens every year where they take a stage of the Tour de France. Mm-hmm. And in 2010, it was the Pau Tourmalet stage in the Pyrenees. Very green. I wore white lycra on the day, which is a must. It's a definite no-no.
How come a white lycra?
Oh, if you have tummy trouble or anything like that, then white lycra doesn't. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we need to hear everything. The listeners might not be familiar with that. That's why I'm asking. Okay, good.
So this particular bike race was the Pau Tourmalet, and it was about 160, 180 kilometers, finishing at the top of the Col de Tourmalet. It was also the hottest day of the year. And looking back, I made so many obvious errors. But at the time, I didn't realize it. My whole preparation leading up to it, the diets, the drinking, I went too fast from the start. I was eating too many gels from the start. It was the most amazing adventure, but towards the end, it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. And the final climb, your body is absolutely, you start shutting down. And in cycling, you may have come across this before, they call it bonking. And so, I bonked on the Tourmalet. That was my most catastrophic failure. So I end up, curling up, gathering my energy, you're falling asleep in a race. So I put my head down for what felt like an eternity, had my 10 minutes, 15 minutes, power nap, got back on the bicycle and then finished off. But from that, I've learned about how to prepare, how to do an event, how to do a race. It's about never going back to those places again and learning from it and educating others to make sure they don't go to those places.
What I see many times is people say, so you did the Ironman, is that everything in one day? I'm like, yes, but it takes a year. But it's the preparation, and nobody talks to you when you're in that preparation phase. They're like, I'm training for the Ironman. They're like, yeah, tell us when you are done. Or when you see what we put in, how many hours, how much sweat, I think we should maybe talk about that and just on the event when we have the medal with us or the hat or the t-shirt.
Yeah, and I see it so many times. If you can get to race day in good condition, then that's an achievement in itself.
Yeah.
Because when you're doing all this training, you're exposing yourself to so many more injuries along the way. And if you can get on the start line, if you can get into that swim, and if you can get out of the swim in one piece, then I think that's me. That's one of the highlights, is actually just finishing that swim, in that triathlon. To
give my experience, right? I thought the swim would be the hardest for me. And if you put it into perspective, it's only 2.4 mile swim. It's actually the easiest. And my Ironman friend always says, you cannot win an Ironman competition on the swim. So if you have that in your mind.
I'm a big believer in comfort zones and pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. And for me, the swim is it's 2 miles outside my comfort zone. But as soon as I go through that first transition and get on the bicycle, I can then relax. And that's when my race starts.
So this is kind of like when we look at the menu, this is like the soup. You just take the soup fast and then you go on the main course. I like to ask, which is your preferred sport? Obviously, we know for you it's the bike.
It's all about the bike. And the reason I say that is you can gain so much or lose so much on the bike. And the swim, if you're 10% quicker or 10% slower, it's not that much difference. And on the run, it's a fair bit of difference on the run. But on the bike, 10% quicker or 10% slower can make a massive difference.
Yeah. So you said you have done 4 Ironman.
All mine have been in my hometown in Bolton.
Good.
And it's one of those events that I'd missed the first few years. I started to watch it, and the crowd, you just have to be in there. And when you've actually done an event like the Ironman, I don't think there's an event quite like it in terms of crowd participation and support, and especially where the UK Ironman, the whole run course, the bicycle course is full of people. The crowd can help you go quicker, because if you can, they're shouting you, but if you can actually shout back at them or high five or thank them for their support, that in itself gives you a boost, almost like a superpower when you're actually on the course, actually use the crowd. There's very few events, and I know we're talking a lot about the triathlons here. You can actually compete alongside elite athletes at the same time on the same course. Either you'll be going past them or they'll be going past you in different ways. But it's incredibly inspiring to see athletes at the top of their game, and you're in the same event as them.
It is inspirational. And we always say everybody starts at the same line and everybody finishes at the same point. Some people are just a little faster than others.
You asked us, is there any one which particularly stands out?
Yeah.
Well, obviously the first one, because until you've actually done an Ironman, you don't know whether you can actually do it. And yes, you've put in the training, and yes, you've done the swim and you've done the marathon, you've done the bike, but to actually link them all together on race day, that's something special. So, and I think everyone after that is just unique and holds different memories for lots of different reasons, because it is an emotional ride. It is an emotional race.
It is emotional. So I'm wondering, for people like me who have done one, and now I'm like, maybe I get that Ironman bug again. What is so different from the first to the second?
For me, it was the first one was setting a time and just completing it. Always wanting to improve. It was okay. Where can I make those improvements? Within a space of 12 months, I managed to reduce my time by an hour and a half. There was a short amount on the swim, an amount on the run, but it was all about the bike.
Yes.
And yes, I'm a cyclist, but even then, I could still. It's not so much going quicker. And I spend a lot of time coaching other cyclists, and I can't teach you to be any fitter. But what I can do is, and what I spend a lot of time doing with people, is teaching them how to process information. If you want to ride quicker, you need to process information quicker. It's all about momentum. Just basic physics. As soon as you start braking, then you slow down. You need to put more effort in. I teach people how not to use their brakes by processing the information quicker. If you can learn how to process information quicker, then you'll not only ride safer, but you'll ride faster at the same time.
Something for me, I have to say I'm always a little afraid on the bike. So I know I need to get over that fear of falling or having an accident.
What are you actually afraid of when you're cycling?
I don't know. I'm just afraid that a car can drive into me or that I'm falling. I think it's a fear of the unknown, probably.
And that's very popular in a lot of people who are either starting and a lot of experienced cyclists as well. But one of the things you can do is if you can imagine a road, and when you're looking out at the tarmac, the road in front, rather than just looking at it as a road, if you can imagine like a strip of colours, and you'll have dark colours and you have light colours, you'll have even colours. If you can ride on those consistent colours and avoid any, a pothole will be a dark colour, puddle, some water might be a dark colour, some loose gravel will be a lighter colour. But rather than looking at potholes, if you can look, if you can increase your field of vision and just ride by the colour of the road, rather than looking out for obstacles, immediately that's a quicker way of actually reading the road.
Wow, I learned a lot. Thank you so much. I needed you 5 years ago. Where were you? Every race is different. And also with the Ironman, it's the weather. I mean, I was very lucky. The weather gods were in my favor. But I've seen that they took the swimmers out because it was lightning or there was torrential rain. So you never know what can happen in an Ironman race. And you're so prepared, and then another element can pop up.
And I think that's one of the key things you can take from sport into the business world. It's that preparedness and planning for every eventuality, whether it's flash floods, whether it's too hot, too cold. But if you can prepare yourself to make the most of those situations, you can then apply that in the business world at the same time.
I want to hear something before we talk about business, the Mont Blanc experience. Obviously I'm from Switzerland, so Mont Blanc, I know where it is.
Yeah, so the Tour du Mont Blanc, we spent a lot of time talking about the Ironman. Well, then the Ironman is a very tough challenge. The Tour du Mont Blanc is 10 times harder than an Ironman in my eyes. It's an annual event, and it's 330 kilometers. You take in over 8,000 meters of climbing. You do 3 countries, so France, Switzerland, Italy, and back to France in a day. Amazing. It's a 1-day race. So you take on 8 cols, and it's just the most amazing adventure. You start the day at 5 o'clock in the morning when it's pitch black, and you spend the first 16 kilometers going downhill at speed in the dark. Everybody has to wear bike lights, and you think the bike lights are there to be seen, but no, when you need them when you're descending at hills at night. And that's either 5 o'clock in the morning, or in my case, I finished at 1 o'clock in the morning, almost 20 hours later. And that was just one epic adventure through the Alps. And it was a lap of Mont Blanc on the road bike.
How do you prepare for something like this? Or can you prepare?
I think you can prepare as much as you can for events like that. So you can do segments. An event, you wouldn't do the whole event as a training ride. So I'd been over there a few times to the Alps, either to Switzerland or to France, and done small sections of those routes in different conditions. So I was fairly familiar with certain landmarks, certain places were familiar, and I knew the hills or the descents would be like. And nutrition plays a huge part on those days, because you're riding for 330 kilometers. So yes, there's food stops, but you've also got to manage your own nutrition for water, for food, how you dress as well. Because in the morning it's freezing temperatures. I'll give you an example. So you get to one of the highest points in the on the Tour du Mont Blanc is the Col de Grand Saint Bernard. When we reached that point, it was halfway, and it was 6 degrees Celsius. 20 kilometers later, in the Aosta Valley, it was 36 degrees. So within a very short space of time, you've got to be dressing for 6 degrees, and you've also got to be dressing for 36 degrees. So
you put like newspaper in your t-shirt. That's what we see in the Tour de France sometimes, right?
Yeah, no, you've got to have the equipment as well. Yeah, make sure. So top tip: make sure you zip up on the way down, zip down on the way up.
Small things, but the devil lies in the details. Yeah.
An event like the Tour du Mont Blanc, you can make so many parallels in your life. It's a journey. It's not just about the destination. It's the people you meet along the way, the people you leave behind along the way. It's about the highs and the lows. So I feel very privileged to have actually done that event as well. And I share those experiences with other people at the same time.
Yeah, and you need to be prepared. I mean, like, you cannot go from zero to Tour du Mont Blanc. Sometimes people say, yeah, I can do this. And it's just not the right thing to do. You want to prepare, and you want to be prepared to enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think you've hit it there. There's a lot of events where you can turn up and do the event, but it's hard work. If you want to enjoy it, it'll still be hard work, but you've done the training and you'll enjoy it. You enjoy the pain, but because you've put the effort in, you've put the training in.
I always compare that to like a 5-course menu in a fantastic restaurant. It's like the when they bring you the little chocolates with the gold on it. It's just that cherry on the cake. So it's almost like you get a reward for all the hard training. And as you said, you're honored. You have been honored to do that to the Mont Blanc. Yeah, so congratulations.
I think whether it's the Tour du Mont Blanc or an Ironman, only a small percentage of the population who have done them. And I think it puts you in a different category in terms of life experience and then how you can help others.
What an inspirational talk with Bob. How can we transfer ideas from sports into business? It feels like we feel his enthusiasm, but also he likes to compete. Nothing wrong with that. Take it from the Ironwoman. We have episodes every Monday, every Wednesday. Chime in, like us, leave a comment, and don't forget, getloopy.com, the plant-based snack. Getloopy.com, you get 20% off your first order.